Oh, hey, sorry. I was looking at my options. I'm looking for the share button. How I go about sharing this? I think I got it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, welcome for those of you that are now joining us. Welcome to the MBLEx Test Prep live stream. I'm actually live streaming. It's the first time I've live streamed in quite a few months. As we all know, a lot has happened in the past few months, and I'm just kind of forced to work at home. Well, I always work at home, but now the wife is forced to work at home, and that's why I'm in the closet, because we had to move our desk into our closet, and that's her makeshift office, I suppose. I'm just going to send this invite link out. Here's the link to the live stream. Join me, won't you? There we go. And send. Okay, so the MBLEx Test Prep live stream, how this works is it's not like a full-on lecture or anything. I'm just here to, it's kind of a Q&A type thing where you ask questions about the MBLEx, about specific material that you maybe need help with about in regards to the MBLEx, and I do my best to answer said questions. And sometimes I tend to ramble a lot, and I talk a lot sometimes. Some people complain that I talk too much. Probably my wife would agree with that sentiment. So there's the chat over. I'm looking at the chat over on the right side. I don't know where it is on your screen. It might be on the right. It might be on the left, top, bottom. Who knows? The chat is there. That's how you ask your questions. So go ahead and send over any questions that you may have. I'm looking around my office, and I do not see any copies of my study guide. So I guess maybe you have that to look forward to. I don't have any copies of my study guide to constantly flash up here, say, hey, buy this. Although if you are looking for an MBLEx study guide, mine is the best on the market. Just look for MBLEx Test Prep 2020. That's the current one. Who knows, when you're watching this, there might be a 2021 wink nudge, maybe soonish. You could expect that. Just look for that, or look for my name, David Merlino, Merlino. You go to Amazon, search for either of those, and you'll see my book. If you don't see my name on the book, it's not my book. Please don't buy that one. Buy mine. It's better. I promise. Even though it's a little more pricey, there's a reason for that. It's worth every cent, I promise. Or you can go to my website, MBLExTestPrep.com. There I have links to all of my study guides on Amazon, and I don't know. That's a pretty easy way to do it too. MBLExTestPrep.com. Okay, so let's talk about the MBLEx and what we got going on. So I got one. It's not really a question. It's more of a statement. I have problems with muscles. Okay. What specific problems with muscles are you having? Do you need to get a massage? Is that what you're telling me? Man, I don't know how the wife works in here. It is really hot in this room. It's got to be like close to 80 degrees in here right now. I know it's the summer, but okay. So what aspect of the muscles are you having trouble with? What's bringing you down with the muscles? Because there's a lot that goes into the muscles. Is it origins? Is it insertions, actions, innervations, synergists, antagonists? What is it? Now, I will say that learning all of that stuff, it can be a little tricky. There's a lot of information that kind of conflicts. Unfortunately, I'm part of this Facebook group that I don't know, a few of you should probably join. It's called MBLEx Study Group. I do not run it, despite what a lot of people think. I don't run it. It's run by somebody else. But join that, and I post like test questions on there once in a while, and we talk about the test, and then you get, when you pass the test, you get to tell everybody, hey, I passed, and everybody celebrates. It's a great time. Anyway, so I just had somebody on there saying, well, why in David's book, kinesiology book, does it say that masseter and lateral pterygoid are antagonists when in trail guide they're synergists? And I had to explain, well, even though they do both protract the jaw, so that that's where they would be synergists. They both do the same thing. Syn means together, they work together to perform that action. But they can be antagonists as well, where masseter elevates the jaw, like you're closing like that, and lateral pterygoid opens the jaw, depresses the jaw. And they work together doing those two actions. Even though they're opposite actions, they work together to perform the action of chewing. So kind of they're synergists in that one, do the opposite action. It's a weird thing, man. The body's weird. So it can be a little tricky learning the muscles, unfortunately. And listen, I know what year we're in, and I know not everything is as easy to find as it should be. But if you have access to something like a cadaver lab, then I recommend going in and utilizing it, and actually getting in front of a body that has all of the muscles, like an actual body that has all of the muscles, and you can see all of their attachment sites. That alone, reading it out of a book, despite how awesome my book is, I understand that, you know, a lot of it is just, it's a lot of kind of tedious reading. Whereas if you are able to actually get out and interact with things like a cadaver, and you can palpate the specific origins and insertions of these muscles, and you can identify where certain attachment sites are, like the pes anserinus, and you can actually see why it's called the pes anserinus. It means goose foot. That's a tendon on the tibia, looks like a goose's foot. Pes means foot, anserine means goose, so it's pes anserinus, goose foot. And you can identify all the muscles that attach to it. You can see where they are. So doing stuff like that is definitely a good thing. If you are not able to access a cadaver or a body of some sort, I mean, ideally you want to do a cadaver, but if you don't have access to a cadaver or something like that, then I recommend doing is identifying the muscles on yourself, doing things like exercise, specifically weightlifting. Okay. So you identify the actions and you associate the muscles with the actions, the muscles that perform that specific action. So for the past 4 months, I haven't been able to go to the gym, and anybody that knows me knows I love to go to the gym and lift weights. You know, listen, these 24-inch pythons, they didn't get that big on their own, right? So I haven't been able to work out as much, and finally I was able to find some dumbbells the other day, and I almost wept with joy when I saw them. And hold on one sec. There we go. Almost wept with joy when I saw them, and I put them in the cart, and really excitedly I took them home, and I was like, yes, I finally get to work out again. And that was earlier. Hold on, what is today? Today's Monday. That's the problem with working at home. I never know what day of the week it is, really, until cheat day. Then it's like, yes, cheat day. So last week I picked these up, and I've exercised like 3 times with them, and I am sore for sure. I'm thinking about the actions that I'm specifically doing when I'm lifting these weights, when I'm doing curls like this. I'm flexing my elbow, right? Flexing the elbow. I'm thinking about all the muscles that perform that action. I got biceps brachii, brachialis, and brachioradialis. Definitely biceps and brachialis are sore from doing all that. Oh man, I did some lateral flexion of the trunk the other day, and my abs are not happy with me either. So doing stuff like that, actually using your body to learn this stuff, is one of the easiest ways that you can learn this stuff. Your body is a cheat sheet. I'm not sure you're aware of that, but you have all of these muscles in your body that you're supposed to learn and understand and be able to identify and know what actions each one of these muscles do. So put your body to work and do stuff like exercise, and it's good for you too, right? I mean, for the most part, for most people, exercise is actually good for you. Get out, and put your muscles to work and feel those muscles. When you're taking your test, I always tell people, like I said, your body's a cheat sheet. Put it to use. If you get a question asking about specific muscles contracting during specific actions, perform that action. So let's do it together right now, right? Okay. So let's all stick our arm out like this, just like this. Extend your elbow as much as possible, and then flex. Actually flex. Don't just like meh, meh. I mean, I want you to be able to feel that muscle contracting. If you need to pick up something that's got a little bit of weight, 5 to 10 pounds or something, do it. But you should be able to contract, perform that action, and feel those muscles contract and tighten up. And you should be able to identify where those muscles are. I mean, really, there aren't that many muscles in the body that you need to know for this test. Now, as a massage therapist, yeah, it's a great idea to know as many muscles as possible, and know what muscles might be affected if somebody's doing a hobby that they've injured themselves in. Knowing where the attachment sites are, where the origin and insertion is, can help you figure out what's going on with specific muscles. Like I was, I don't know, 6 years ago, I was playing basketball, right? And this was a week before I went to New Orleans, and I'm not sure if you've ever been to New Orleans, but all you do in New Orleans is walk. So I was playing basketball, and I was chasing like a loose ball, trying to sprint down the court with another guy. We were chasing this ball, and I strained both quads at the same time, or like one right after the other. Literally one step and then the other step. I felt like Vince McMahon tearing both of his quadriceps. Nobody gets that reference. That's okay. But I mean, definitely I identified what muscles were affected during that injury. So doing something like playing basketball, you could have injuries like that. And knowing that, hey, maybe, somebody might have something like jumper's knee, where they have a little bit of inflammation in the patellar tendon because they keep jumping, and it's kind of a forceful thing when you're landing on a hard surface like a basketball court. So knowing that is important, of course. But for the MBLEx itself, really only 30 to 35 muscles that you need to know. Okay. So in my study guide, I do have the 30 to 35 muscles that you need to know. And you learn those muscles. And, if you can logically think about situations that are presented on the MBLEx and identify which muscles are performing specific actions and which types of muscle contractions are occurring with that, then you should be okay. All right. So let me see. I got a couple more things. I write on myself to know where they are. Okay. I would go a step further and actually draw the muscles on yourself. And take a Sharpie, or maybe not a Sharpie, a whiteboard marker or something, and draw the muscles on yourself. And I used to do this all the time with my students when I was teaching in a class, and I wouldn't draw it on them. I'd draw it on myself, and it would help them understand that, hey, if he can identify where these muscles are and he can draw them on himself, then I could do that too. And some of them would, and they would draw like rectus femoris on their thigh, exactly where it is. Again, you remember doing stuff like that more than just reading out of a book, unfortunately. Okay. So do stuff like that. Draw on yourself, palpate while you're doing stuff like exercise, while you're working out, while you're doing any of these, while you're palpating these muscles. Tell yourself everything about the muscle. Try to feel where the muscle actually goes. Like when I'm palpating my biceps brachii, I can feel it go. It kind of disappears up here underneath the deltoid, but I can feel it go all the way up. So I know it goes all the way up here to the coracoid process and the supraglenoid tubercle. Okay. And then, I mean, you could do the same thing. You move kind of distally and you can feel it attached to the radial tuberosity. And hey, there, I just gave you the origin and insertion of biceps brachii. You're welcome. Okay. Moving on. I'm making flashcards for the medical terminology. Besides just memorizing the root words, is there a trick to helping learn the medical terminology? Is it's really important. You have to know medical terminology, and I don't understand why schools don't require medical terminology to be learned by massage therapy students, because that would make everything so much easier. Trying to identify structures in the body when you have no basis for why they're named what they're named can be, I mean, that's just added stress. You know, like a nephron. If somebody says, what's a nephron, and you've never been exposed to that information before, it's like, I don't know. I have no idea. But if you know medical terminology, you know, neph means kidney, right? Nephro, kidney. Nephron has to be something to do with the kidney, right? So you got to know medical terminology, right? You see medical terms, you see diseases, the names of diseases, even if you've never seen this disease before, even if you have no idea what the disease is, you use your medical terminology to break down the name, and that helps you figure out kind of what's going on with it. I mean, sometimes they're named a little weird, and sometimes they're named after people, these diseases, but for the most part, you use your medical terminology. So very important. You got to know your medical terms. As far as a trick to learning medical terminology, I just kind of think about things in everyday life that we deal with that have medical terms in them. Like just a couple weeks ago, I went to the dentist. Dento means teeth, right? Geez, I think about malignant tumors. And, the fun thing about medical terminology is this entire language of medical terminology is based in Latin and Greek. And a lot of the Romance languages, like Italian and Spanish and French and Romanian and Portuguese, all have similar Latin roots. So a lot of these terms from those languages can apply to medical terminology, like malignant, right? Mal in Spanish means bad. So it's a bad thing, right? A lot worse than benign. So you think about stuff like that. You identify other words just in the English language that have some sort of connection to these medical terms, and that can help you figure out a lot of the medical terms. Like we're experiencing a pandemic. The term pan means all, like when all of the continents were together. It was called Pangea. Unfortunately, pan does not... we can't use Spanish for that because it means bread. So we... whatever, that doesn't work. But try to identify... Okay, a couple things I would try to do. Try to learn another language, one of those Romance languages. I find Spanish is probably easiest if you live in the United States, because there are a lot of Spanish-speaking people here, and you're kind of exposed to it a lot more than you would be something like French or Italian or Portuguese or Romanian. I mean, who knows Romanian? I do have a Romanian language learning book, but I tried. I can't do it. I can't. It's a weird language. French too. It's too nasally. I can't. Ugh. I hope I didn't just offend the entire nation of France. Je suis la jeune fille. There. Hopefully that redeemed myself. So try to identify words, everyday words with the medical terms. Think, well, geez, this word maybe I can use in this sentence as a part of this other word, and that kind of can help you think about it. Other than that, it's a lot of repetition learning that. It's like any language that you just have to use it. And the more you use it, the more you get a hang of it. Okay. Which muscles do you think I should study for MBLEx? My test is in September. Well, my study guide has all of the muscles that I think you need to know for the MBLEx. So if you go to Amazon.com, search for MBLEx Test Prep 2020, look for my name, David Merlino. You will find it. I cannot recommend my study guide enough. It's not just because it's my study guide, but because it's the best study guide for the MBLEx you will find anywhere. So I recommend that personally, and that's there, like I said, about 35 muscles. That's it. 35 muscles. That's all you need. Lou, I took a practice test online today from the website you mentioned and your book and only got 86. Do you think I can pass the MBLEx if I take it in September? That all depends on you. I don't know how you're studying. I don't know what your weak and strong areas are, so I can't really comment on whether or not I think you're going to pass. What you should be doing with my practice tests, with any practice test really, because the MBLEx is such a weird test. Nobody can replicate the questions that are on the MBLEx. Like I try, it's impossible. They're just so weird. They're so out there. There's really not much I can do about it. You know, I can try to make scenario-based questions. I do have an entire section in my study guide called critical thinking, where I give lengthy scenarios and you're supposed to read them and dissect the scenario and try to figure out, you know, okay, what do I do in this situation? How did this person react? How should they have reacted? How does this person injured in this situation? There's a lot that goes into it. Okay. In that section. So I've got, I think 20 of those in the 2020 version. There might be more in the 2021 version, which might be coming soon. So okay. Keep an eye out. So I can't replicate the questions on the MBLEx, unfortunately, but that's why you can't really put too much stock into a bunch of test questions. I mean, yes, it's good to test yourself on what you know and what you don't know, and that can help you figure out what you need to study more of and need to study less of. Okay. But what you really should be doing with practice tests is utilizing your test taking techniques. Practice those. So when you get a question that you don't know, you instinctively think, you know, what should I do? Should I eliminate answers? Should I identify the key words? I mean, yes to all of these. Should I read the entire question? Should I read every single answer? Should I read everything multiple times? Yes, you probably should, especially if it's a question you don't know the answer to. Okay, so that's what I recommend doing with my practice test. I mean, like I said, it's good to test yourself on what you do and don't know, but you want to be really good at taking tests. That's more important than saying, "Oh, I know what the red blood cells do," or whatever. I'm good, right? You got to practice taking tests. It's vital that you know how to take tests. And when I was teaching, when I actually had students in front of me, that was, I think, the most important thing that we did in class was taking practice tests. Because the first one, you know, I'd always go through the very first day. I would always go through with them all of my test taking techniques and study skills and how to reduce test anxiety, and everybody would just nod and be like, "Yeah, I got it. Of course. Yeah, this all makes perfect sense." And then they take the first practice test. Usually, I think it was usually kinesiology. By design, I always have kinesiology at the very beginning of my classes. And we would go through it one question at a time, and they would identify, like, what did I do that David told me not to do? And did it work? No. Then why did I do it? I don't know. Because nobody believes me until I give them proof, I guess. And then eventually, by the 4th practice test, and by the time they take their final, which was a 100-question test used to kind of mimic the MBLEx as much as possible, as much as my practice test can, they had their test taking down. They really knew what they were doing. Okay. So you got to take those practice tests. In my study guide, I do have practice tests, right? At the end of every chapter. I have one on massage therapy, A&P, pathology, and kinesiology. And in the 2021 version, there might be one on medical terminology as well. We'll see. Can you tell a new book is coming soon? So on my website, which you get access to when you buy my study guide, this is one of those perks that goes along with my study guide. I have videos where I go through every single practice test question on each one of those 4 tests one at a time, and I say, well, here's what a lot of people think, and here's where maybe they can improve, and here's why a lot of people think that this was the right answer and why it's the other answer. And it really helps you understand, even though you're not right in front of me with these with this practice test, we're not talking about it one-on-one, you still get an idea. Oh man, I changed an answer. I shouldn't have changed that answer. When I tell you, I make sure everybody knows, do not change your answers. Don't change your answers when you're taking practice tests. Just don't do it. It doesn't work. Knock it off. Stop. Please. Let me get some water. I just realized I've been talking nonstop for about half an hour. Just talk. I guess I do talk a lot, don't I? How do I sound, by the way? I got this this brand new Blue Yeti microphone and a fancy schmancy pop filter. Hopefully I sound good. Well, Lou, I explained why I'm in the closet at the beginning of the video. Due to the coronavirus, my wife has been forced to set up an office in the house where the children cannot be heard, and the only place to do that is in our bedroom closet. So, yeah, I've got a desk and everything in here. Apparently, we have a big closet. Yeah, fun stuff. So, take the practice tests. Practice taking tests. Practice your test taking techniques while you're taking the test. Don't just take the test and not think about what you're doing while you're taking the test. You got to get good at taking tests so that you get any test, you should be able to do well at it. All right. So what other questions do we have out here? Who else has a question for this guy besides why I'm in the closet? I'm sure everybody that joins that didn't start at the beginning when I explained is like, why is he in the closet? Well, I have to be. Otherwise, you hear my kids running around and they won't stay off the camera, and it's no bueno, as they say. There's a reason I'm in the closet, all right? So, what other questions do we have? Again, I have my box of bones over here. I have my skeleton calico sitting over here. Okay, I got a couple questions. Here we go. Best resource for where to get practice tests? Well, I'm glad you asked that. Just head to MBLExTestPrep.com and search for my study guide. There's a little link right at the top that says study guide. You can order my book, MBLEx Test Prep Comprehensive Study Guide and Workbook 2020 by this guy, David Merlino. That's the best place to get practice tests. Not only do you get the book, you get all of my online content. I have unlimited practice tests online. I have pre-made flashcards online. I have lecture videos online. I have lots of stuff online that goes with the study guide when you purchase the study guide. So head there, MBLExTestPrep.com. Check it out. Let's see. Have you heard about the test that is $20 that AMTA made? No, I don't think so. I saw the FSMTB was offering a like this practice test for like $25 or something, just to tell you like what your weak and strong areas are. It's like you give me $20 and 10 minutes with you, and I can figure out what your weak and strong areas are. All I got to do is test you. I mean, I can test you right now if you want. What are the 3 muscles that attach to the coracoid process? See if anybody gets it without looking it up. Don't cheat. Don't you dare. That's not how you learn. You can't Google stuff during the MBLEx. Don't you do it. No, I got a hold on. Got a question via Facebook on my phone. Apparently somebody is watching, I don't know, on Facebook. I don't know. I did post the link on Facebook, so maybe, I don't know. The 3 muscles that attach to the coracoid process. While everybody figures that out, let me read this. No, and no. Try again. You're close on one of them. I'll tell you that. You're close on one. My question is, when it comes to the tests, hold on. Is the test hard, or is it that we overthink and we make it hard? A little of both. So I got a question asking, is the test actually hard, or do we psych ourselves out and make it seem like it's hard, make it seem like it's much more difficult than it actually is? A little of both. It all depends on who you are. Some people, it all depends on how comfortable you are with tests. I'm really comfortable with tests, so I'm not stressed out when I have a test, right? Like any test. I mean, within reason. The more prepared you are, the less likely you're going to be stressed out about the test, and the less likely you're going to test is difficult. When I took the MBLEx, I mean, yeah, there were questions that I thought were hard. Like, man, this is a little weird. Pec minor and biceps brachii. Which head of the biceps? Which head of the biceps? There are 2. There are 2 heads, right? Bi means 2. Again, it goes back to medical terminology. Bi, 2. Which head of the biceps? So the more prepared you are, the less likely you're going to feel the test is difficult. And even though you have, even though you might be prepared, like I was when I took the MBLEx, I took the MBLEx, almost 10 years after I'd been licensed, because we didn't. I know people are always like, well, you only took it, 6 years ago? Yes, I only took it 6 years ago. When I got my license, the national exam and the MBLEx were not required by the city of Reno, where I live. So they had their own massage board. The city of Reno had a massage board. Everything in Nevada was just kind of, it went by county and then by city. So they had their own test. So we had to take that test, and we didn't take the national exam or MBLEx. So I got licensed and then was grandfathered in when they established the state board in 2007. So I've been licensed for 15 years now. So I never had a reason to take the national exam or the MBLEx until I got a job teaching and preparing students to take it. So that's why I only took it 6 years ago. I used to prep students for the national exam instead of the MBLEx because that's what our school signed the students up for. And then the national exam went away, and now the MBLEx is the only one. So I figured I'd probably have to take that since I'm supposed to be teaching people how to take it. And I'm glad I did, and I did really well. But even though I was prepared and I had been licensed for 10 years at that point, and I had been teaching and preparing students to take the test, I still found some questions that were a little challenging for me. But it's one of those things. The MBLEx is an adaptive test, so it changes as you take it. So the more questions you get right, the harder the test gets. So if you are doing really well on the test, you're going to be getting some really hard questions, and that should, I don't know, give you some self-esteem, some confidence, knowing that you're getting all these hard questions. I know it's a stressful thing when you get a question you don't know the answer to, but just know that if the question is really hard and is covering some really obscure information, that means you're doing really well. All right. So don't be discouraged when you get that stuff, and don't psych yourself out and start freaking out. You're not going to get every question right. I didn't. I don't know a single person that's ever gotten every question right on the MBLEx. So you're not going to. So even if you get one of those questions you absolutely don't know the answer to, you go through all of your test taking techniques and stuff. You try to figure out the answer. And if you just don't know it, you just don't know it. So you answer it and move on, So that, I mean, yeah, people can freak themselves out and make the MBLEx harder than it needs to be, but it's, everybody's getting a lot of the same information on the test. So don't stress out. I promise it's not that hard if you put in the time and effort to learn the information, not just memorize part of the information, learn the information. That's something that I kind of drill into people a lot, is you have to learn the information, not just memorize a couple, little tidbits of information that you'll immediately forget the second you're done with the test. Don't do that. Learn the information. All right. So I'm still waiting. It is the short head of the biceps brachii. Hey, there we go. Lori has come through in the clutch. She has finished. So we kind of got half of it before. I can't remember. The black sheep of the family. Got pec minor and biceps. It is the short head of the biceps and the coracobrachialis. Those are the three muscles that attach to the coracoid process. Biceps, short head of the biceps, and coracobrachialis originate on the coracoid process and pec minor inserts. Okay. So, what other questions? Lou, my teacher recommended your book and saw good reviews. I'm glad you like my book. I appreciate that. A lot of hard work goes into every single study guide that I do, and unfortunately I have to make one every single year. So it's a lot of work. It's to quote what's that band? Cage the Elephant. To quote Cage the Elephant, there ain't no rest for the wicked, right? It's like I'm always writing a book or something. So what was I going to say? Oh, fun thing coming up. I do offer tutoring. I do group tutoring via Zoom. So if you are interested in tutoring with me, just head to my website, MBLExTestPrep.com. There is a link right at the top that says tutoring. And on that page is the registration link. I do not offer free tutoring because I don't work for free. Sorry. But I make it really affordable. It's only $10 an hour for tutoring with me. Doesn't get much better than that. A lot more affordable than other places. So this coming Sunday the 30th, I am doing 4 hours of tutoring on pathology. So if you want to be tutored by me and you have Zoom and PayPal, head over to MBLExTestPrep.com, go to the tutoring section, sign up, register for the tutoring, and you'll get access to that video after the tutoring is done. I think it's a good quality service that I offer. Oh, it's you and me tutoring. So I mean, what do you want? So just head over there and do that. I usually have those tutoring sessions going on every couple weeks. I did one this past Saturday. And the person I was tutoring with said, I'm testing on like the 3rd of September. Can you fit in one more? And I said, yeah, I think I can. So this Sunday, if you are looking for tutoring on pathology, it's only $40. Just head to the website, sign up, and I will see you there. 4 hours of tutoring with me on Sunday the 30th. Okay. So, what other questions do we have? I can't just keep we all know I can. just keep talking because that's all I do. Apparently, some people say I talk way too much. It was very fun reading some comments. People complain about me talking too much. Like, yeah, I guess I do talk a lot, but I mean, you want me to just sit here and stare? I'll just sit here and stare at the camera until somebody leaves me a question. Ask a question, please. What do you want me to teach you? I'll teach you something right now. Just ask. Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking a question so I didn't have to sit and stare. I have done tutoring on kinesiology. However, I mean, there are only really 4 subjects that I tutor on: massage therapy and pathology and anatomy and physiology and kinesiology. So it's a constantly circulating, rotating thing. So I only scheduled pathology because this person specifically requested the pathology. But the following week, I might be able to fit in some kinesiology. So if that's something you're interested in, just let me know, and I can get that. I can actually get that scheduled pretty soon. I do 5 hours of tutoring on kinesiology. It's a lot of information. We will take up every second of that 5 hours, I guarantee. So if you're interested, I can schedule our next kinesiology. You know what? I'm looking at my video. Hey, I was like, man, I got kind of a bluish tint. There's a computer monitor literally right behind my laptop, and shining a bright light at me. So if you're interested, send me a message on Facebook, or send me an email, david@mblextestprep.com, and that will and just let me know like day and time that you're interested in. I can only really do the weekend because of the wife's work schedule, and somebody has to watch the kids, and I don't know, it's a timing thing. I'm on the West Coast, so everybody on the East Coast, like I'd be doing tutoring right now, but 80% of the country lives on the East Coast, but so they'd all be asleep by the time I'm actually done with the tutoring. I don't know. So send me a message somewhere, get a hold of me somewhere. Let me know if you're interested. If you want to do it, I will schedule the next tutoring session for kinesiology, 5 hours. Again, it's only $10 an hour, and you're not gonna spend money better when you're trying to learn kinesiology than spending it with me. I promise. So for the tutoring, it is on Zoom. It is not free. I do not work for free. I apologize in advance, but listen, I got bills to pay. All right, so I offer a service. Hopefully, I get paid. Okay. Sorry, somebody's sending me more messages. Repost the website to register for Sunday. I will repost that for sure. I'll send that to you. Any tips on how to remember synergist and antagonist? Like for every muscle, or just what they are? Because if we're doing every muscle, that's going to be part of the tutoring. So, but as far as what they are, I mean, that kind of goes back to medical terminology. You just look at the name, and that can tell you what a synergist is and what an antagonist is. A synergist, syn, S-Y-N, the same as sim, S-Y-M, means work together. So synergists are muscles that work together, that do the same thing, right? So you think about gastroc and soleus. They work together. They both do plantar flexion of the ankle, right? Right? Plantar flexion, right? Yes. So they're synergists. They work together. Same with biceps brachii and brachialis. They both flex the elbow. They're synergists. They work together. Antagonists, the prefix anti means against. So if I am anti something, I am against it. So antagonists work against the agonist. The agonist is a muscle that performs an action, right? The main muscle that performs an action. So if we're using gastrocnemius as an example with plantar flexion, the antagonist is going to be a muscle that performs dorsiflexion because that's the opposite of plantar flexion. And that muscle would be tibialis anterior. I mean, there are a couple, but tibialis anterior is the one that you need to know. All right. So every action has an opposing action, right? So you identify, you link up those two actions, like flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, right? So you link those up, you figure out the muscles that perform one, and you think about the muscles that perform the other, and those muscles are going to be antagonists. All those muscles are antagonists. Now, unfortunately, it gets a little tricky because some muscles are antagonists to themselves, and some muscles have antagonists with one action that are also like synergists with another action. It's a weird thing. It's an entirely weird thing. The body is a fascinating structure, but for the most part, you only need to know a handful of actions, and you only need to know a handful of muscles, and you only need to know a handful of synergists and antagonists, which I go over in the tutoring. All right. So just try to group things together, make them smaller. Instead of looking at the whole body, thinking all these muscles, just think about the individual action and say, okay, elbow flexion, what muscles do I need to know that flex the elbow? Okay. You group those together, and then you say, okay, elbow extension. What are the two muscles that I need to know that perform elbow extension? You group those together. So you always identify those together. And then if you remember the muscles that flex the elbow and the muscles that extend the elbow, you know the synergists, all the muscles that flex, all the muscles that extend, and you know the antagonists. They are fighting each other, right? So, I mean, that's the easiest way I can explain it. Okay. I have been having a hard time with insertion and origin. Do you have any tips? Again, are we talking about specific origins and insertions, or are we talking about just what they are? I did, by the way, I do have a podcast if you are interested. Just on any podcast app or service that you have, just search for MBLEx Test Prep Podcast, and you'll get sent the subscribe link on there. Just subscribe to the podcast, and you get all these episodes. I think I'm up to 21 episodes now, where I talk about specific material, stuff that you could see on the MBLEx, stuff that a lot of people need help with. So do that. I did an entire episode on origins and insertions, I believe, or is it synergists and antagonists? One of those. I think it was synergists and antagonists. Now I have to look. Make me actually look it up. Luckily, it's pretty easy to access. Hold on. So make sure you subscribe to that podcast as this loads up. And you will get those episodes as they come out. And unfortunately, just like the live streams, I don't do them nearly as often as I should. It's mostly a, when do I have time to do it kind of thing. But let's see. Yes, I did an entire episode on origins and insertions, 33 minutes and 41 seconds, that episode. And I did another one on, where is it? Agonists, synergists, and antagonists. Man, that was 2 years ago. Exactly 2,000 listens on that one. So make sure you check that out. Yeah, just check that out. That could probably explain it a lot better than I could right now. So let me see. Where am I? Mindy, how many hours it usually takes for muscle tutoring? I do 5 hours. It's not just the muscles. I include the muscles in the kinesiology tutoring. So you're talking about bony landmarks, origins, insertions, actions, the muscles to perform those actions, synergists and antagonists, all in 5 hours. And you do, again, get access to those videos after we're done tutoring, so you can constantly watch them over and over and over and over and over again. It's a good deal, I think. Zoom is free to sign up. Yeah, you don't need to pay to use Zoom, but you do need to pay for my tutoring, which is on Zoom. So, yeah, you can sign up for a Zoom account for free for sure. I watch your podcast. I really like the sports massage one, but I might have missed it. The video I did with Ken Shamrock, noted MMA fighter, professional wrestler Ken Shamrock. He used to live just down the street from me. I don't think he does any longer though. And that was actually recorded in his house. Weird thing for someone like me to be inside Ken Shamrock's house, but. Yeah, that was a good video because he's a professional athlete and he's still doing I think he's doing pro wrestling now, back at it. So he's still on the offensive with his career for sure. But there's a lot of good information in that sports massage one, a lot of stuff that you probably didn't think about. And unfortunately, when I recorded it, my phone ran out of space. I'm just glad I got as much footage as I did. He had this. I think I might have cut the video off in the middle of the last question I asked because the video just kind of cut off, and it's like, oh. But at least it did it then instead of at the beginning of the interview. I feel like I wasted my time if that happened. But that's a good one. Make sure you watch that. That's also one of the podcasts. I think it's episode 2. I just took the audio from that and put it into the podcast. So definitely listen to that. So what other questions we got? You know what? Hold on. One sec. You know what? I'm thinking. What am I going to do right now? Yeah, I got it. No, that's not it. It'll be easier. Hold on. Ugh. Okay. Got my my box of bones. I tell you I have a box of bones, and I'm not lying. Okay. Any Game of Thrones fans out there? They don't call me the Mountain for nothing, right? Yeah, this gold fell apart. Okay, I'm looking for a specific thing. I hope somebody laughed at that. Somebody has to have laughed at that. I really got to organize this box, don't I? You know what? I got to text my wife really quick. You know what? My wife actually did use my box of bones for Halloween once. In our old house, there wasn't a lawn. It was just dirt for a while until I fixed that. But she took some of the bones, my expensive bones, and she shoved them sticking out of the dirt. I'm like, gee, that's nice. You know, I only use those to teach. Or she didn't care. Bring me my laptop charger, please! Exclamation point. Because I'm at 15% on my laptop and I don't want to run out. Okay. Let's do a little bit of learning. All right, what bone is this? Anyone? Can anybody tell me what bone this is? Using correct anatomical terms, of course. Here she comes. All right, get out of here, boy. It wasn't the wife. The wife did not bring it. She made the kid bring it, of course. All right, hold on. I got to plug my thing in. Yes, it is the scapula. And we have power. Good. Now my laptop's not going to die right in the middle of this. All right, this is the scapula. See, the problem with this, I don't know if I'm backwards or not. So I can't ask, is this the left or the right scapula? I can ask, is this the anterior side or the posterior side of the scapula? What do you think? Anterior or posterior side of the scapula? Anterior or posterior? I'm sure you can hear my kids now, because they have entered the bedroom and they decide that the bedroom is their place to play. And now the wife is yelling at them to get out. It's a fun time. Unbelievable. Yes, this is the anterior side, which makes this the posterior side. So if you were to, this is actually the left scapula. I don't know if this is the left side. If it's the screen might be mirrored. I don't know. Okay, so left sided. So if you stripped away all of my impressive muscles and skin and organs, and all you could see is my impressively strong skeleton, this is how the scapula would look as you're looking at me right now. So this is the anterior side. It is facing the front, right? This is the posterior side. Now, what's the easiest way to distinguish the anterior from the posterior side? What's something that you can really identify on the anterior or posterior side that tells you what side it's on? There might be a couple. I'm thinking one major thing. Yeah, the spine of the scapula. Absolutely. So you see the spine of the scapula. If you know that the spine of the scapula is on the posterior side of the scapula, you know that this has to be the posterior side, right? As opposed to the anterior side. I don't see the spine of the scapula anywhere. There's this big thing sticking out right here. Okay. So we have a lot of structures and muscles that attach to those structures. Let's start. Let's do a couple. So this is the spine of the scapula, right? What is this big thing right here coming off the lateral side of the scapula? What is this? What do you think? That is the acromion process, okay? So we got the spine of the scapula, and then kind of shooting off that is the acromion process. And that creates kind of the point of the shoulder, and you should be able to palpate that. Remember, I said use your body as a cheat sheet. You should be able to palpate that right about there, okay? What specifically articulates with the acromion process on the anterior side? Kind of like that, okay? A little bit like that. What do you think? What articulates with that? I don't know if you could hear that. My neck just popped. Yeah, I should go get a massage. Ooh, the clavicle, clavicle, clavicle. Okay, and what is the name of that joint where the clavicle meets the acromion process? Clavicle meets the acromion process. What is the name of that joint? Now, typically, joints in the body are named after the structures that make the joint. So you got the acromion process and you got the clavicle. And thank you very much for not calling it the collarbone, which I cannot stand. I hate when people say collarbone. So what do you think? What's the name of that joint? For the acromion process. Inter means between. So it's not going to be between, right? Remember, we got the name of this, and the name of the other bone that articulates with it. So what would that joint be called? What is this again? It's the acromion, right? Okay, the AC joint. What does AC stand for? Now, the fun thing about tutoring is it's 5 hours of this information. Well, maybe not necessarily this, but a lot of stuff like this. And you're on Zoom with me, and you should be able to talk with me. Makes it a little quicker, so I don't feel like I'm just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. What does AC stand for? Not air conditioning. I'm not talking about AC Slater either. Shows you how old I am. AC Slater reference. Yeesh. So AC, the acromion, and the clavicle come together to make the acromioclavicular joint. That's one word, acromioclavicular. All right. So the acromioclavicular joint is right here. It's where the clavicle comes across and joins with the acromion process, and that on both sides, you have that on both sides. That creates the pectoral girdle. All right. So the pectoral girdle is made by 2 clavicles and 2 scapulae. Right. So that's the acromion process. So this is the spine of the scapula, of course. Now we've got a couple shallow depressions in the bone. Okay. So we got one right up here, and we got one right down here. I mean, we got a couple more on here, but let's just do these 2. Now, remember I talked about knowing medical terminology. You got to know your medical terminology. You also have to know your directional terms, and we don't use directional terms in the name of something unless there's something in the body that opposes it. Okay, so we're specifically referencing this. These shallow depressions are named after where they are in relation to this. So let's start with what is a shallow depression in a bone? What is that called? What is a shallow depression in a bone called? Shallow depression. There's also one right here on the front. There's also one right here. What is a shallow depression in a bone called? A fossa. Thank you. So these are fossae. Use proper Latin terminology. A fossa here, a fossa here, a fossa here, a fossa here, not a Mufasa, but a fossa nonetheless. So again, these are named after where they are in relation to this. So think about your directional terms. What would a fossa be called that is above the spine of the scapula? What's the term for above? Anyone? I'm waiting. Okay, I forget that there's a brief delay. Not epi. I mean, yes, epi does mean above, but it's not a directional term in this sense. You're thinking of like epicondyle, right? Superior means above. So this specifically is above the spine of the scapula. That makes it the supraspinous fossa, the fossa above the spine of the scapula. Okay, so we've got one muscle in the supraspinous fossa. This is one of our rotator cuff muscles. And this should be pretty easy because a lot of the rotator cuff muscles are named after where they originate, right? So what muscle originates in the supraspinous fossa? What do you think? What muscle originates in the supraspinous fossa? What muscle originates? Supraspinatus, thank you. There is no O in supraspinatus, both of you. I see that. Get that O out of there. Supraspinatus originates in the supraspinous fossa. Okay. A lot of bones, or a lot of muscles, excuse me, are named after where they attach, like supraspinatus. Okay. What about coracobrachialis? That's named after where it attaches, right? Originates on the coracoid process, coraco, and inserts on the brachial region, the arm, brachialis, coracobrachialis. So you learn medical terminology can really help with a lot of that stuff. Okay. Knowing the term brachialis, you know it has something to do with the arm, the brachial region. Okay, so what fossa is right here? Remember where it has something to do with this. This is below here. This is the supraspinous fossa. Remember, we have opposites, right? When we have a term like supra, we have to have an infra. Very good. An infraspinous fossa. Okay, so this is the fossa below the spine of the scapula. Infraspinous fossa. And what muscle? Okay, I see it. Yes, infraspinatus originates in the infraspinous fossa. Okay, so we have the spine of the scapula, we have the supraspinous fossa, and the infraspinous fossa. Let's turn it around. What fossa is right here? This will be our last one. Last one we go over. Almost. I think I got one more thing planned. Sub what? What does sub mean? Think of like submarine, subway, sub sandwich, sub sandwich. You get it. This is the subscapular fossa. It is below the scapula. Okay. So if a client is lying prone, their scapula is going to look like this. This is considered under the scapula. I don't know. I wouldn't have named it subscapular fossa, but that's just me. I wish I could rename a lot of these things and make them a lot easier, but you know, then maybe I wouldn't be. I'd be out of a job. So I don't know. So subscapular fossa right here. What muscle originates in the subscapular fossa? What muscle originates in the subscapular fossa? Yeah, subscapularis. Okay. So all three of those muscles are rotator cuff muscles. Muscles that help to rotate the shoulder. Imagine that. That's why they're called rotator. Although supraspinatus, maybe not so much. Supraspinatus is more abduction of the shoulder. It works with deltoid to perform that action, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's talk about, so we got the origin of supraspinatus. We got the origin of infraspinatus. What is their insertion? And I'll just tell you, I'm not going to make you figure out teres minor. Teres minor originates right here on the lateral or axillary border of the scapula. It's called the axillary border because it's next to the axilla, which is the armpit, right? So the teres minor, I had to look at the screen, make sure I had it facing the right way. Teres minor, infraspinatus, and supraspinatus all insert. It's where they take their actions. Okay, so origins are where they start. They don't move that bone. Insertion is where they end, and they will move that bone when they contract. Okay, where do they all insert? Where's my box of bones? There it is. I have to organize these. I apologize. You'd think it would be easy just finding one. Okay, here we go. Welcome, Jackie. Not on Facebook anymore. So all of those muscles will insert onto part of this bone. What bone is this? You know, some people think this is the funniest bone in the body. I don't think it's that funny though. Yeah, it's the humerus. Okay. So all three of those muscles, teres minor, supraspinatus, and infraspinatus, will all insert onto the same place on the humerus. What is that place? It's a large structure on the proximal end of the bone. Just hold it up like this. Proximal end of the bone on the lateral side. What do you think? What's on the proximal end? Which end is the proximal end? Is it up where my hand is, or is it down here? Is it up here or down here? Proximal end. Yep, it is the upper half. Okay. So what part of the proximal end on the lateral side? So let's figure out. Let's figure out which side is medial and which side is lateral. Is this medial or is this medial? Is the medial side the side that my hand is on or the side that my hand is not on? What do you think? Which side is medial? The side that my hand is not on is the medial side. Okay, so this is the medial side. And the easiest way to identify is specifically with the humerus and the femur, which side is medial or lateral. All you have to do is look at the head. The head is always on the medial side of those bones. Okay, same thing with the femur. That's the medial side of the femur. Okay, medial side of the humerus, medial side of the femur, where the head is. So easy way to remember that. And I dropped my scapula. Got it. Okay, so that articulates like that. So we are looking for a structure on the lateral proximal shaft of the humerus that all three of those muscles insert onto. What do you think? I'll give you a hint. It's this thing right here. Quite the hint, right? It's this thing. What is this thing? And we have something really similar to that. That is not the glenoid fossa. The glenoid fossa is right there on the scapula, right there. So that's not the glenoid fossa, right? We have something similar on the femur, right? This really big thing right here. Named pretty similarly, but not quite. It is not the lesser tubercle. You're close, though. I'll give you, okay. Lesser tubercle is right over here. This one is bigger than this one. So what would that make this one? This is the greater tubercle. And not all of the rotator cuff muscles insert there. Only 3 of them. Oh, the muscles that we just talked about. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, let me turn it around. Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor all come up and attach right there to the greater tubercle, okay? Now that leaves us with one rotator cuff muscle, the subscapularis. It's right here. So the infraspinatus and teres minor, when they contract, they come up like this. When they contract, they will pull this way, and that will cause the shoulder to laterally rotate. Now you can see how it's in the glenoid fossa. I know my fat fingers are in the way, right? But when they pull, you can watch the humerus rotate, and that's lateral rotation. So from the front, you can see the head kind of sticking out that way, lateral rotation. Supraspinatus comes across just straight up to the top like that, right? So when that contracts, it's going to pull like this, shorten like that, and that causes abduction of the shoulder. Where does subscapularis insert? Remember, it's not the greater tubercle. 3 of the 4 rotator cuff muscles insert there, but subscapularis does not. So if we have a greater tubercle, remember we use opposites to name things, right? If we have a greater tubercle, what else do we have to have? We have a lesser tubercle right here, right? That is where supraspinatus will insert, come across on the anterior side, just like that, and attach to that. And when that contracts, it's going to move the shoulder medial into medial rotation, right? So infraspinatus and teres minor will laterally rotate, turn it out to the back, and subscapularis will medially rotate. Okay, so insertion is going to pull on that bone. The insertion is going to move towards the origin. So think about the attachment sites of subscapularis here, right? So you've got the subscapular fossa, you've got the lesser tubercle, right? When that contracts, it's not going to pull it that way, right? That would stretch that muscle out. That would make it longer. It would elongate the muscle and stretch it. When that muscle contracts, the insertion is always going to move towards the origin, and that's going to cause that medial rotation. It's going to turn the arm in. And oh god, oh, working out. I'm sore. Just medially rotating like that. I was like, oh, it's painful. Okay, so hey, we just went over all the rotator cuff muscles, the origin, insertion, action. We went over a couple synergists, right? Infraspinatus and teres minor. We went over those antagonists. Infraspinatus and teres minor are antagonists to subscapularis and vice versa. A synergist to the supraspinatus is deltoid because they both do abduction of the shoulder. An antagonist is a muscle that adducts. So what's the prime muscle that performs adduction of the shoulder? Adduction. This is why I recommend going to the gym and working out, because a lot of these machines are designed to perform very specific actions like adduction. So at the gym, you ever see people grab the bar like this and then they pull it down, right? Do that exercise, you're going to feel it right in your latissimus dorsi. That, don't pay attention to my elbows when I'm doing this, pay attention to my shoulders, because that's the action, right? Adduction. It's the exact same as this. If my elbows are extended, it's the exact same as this, right? It's the exact same action in the shoulders. So that would be an antagonist. It does the opposite action from supraspinatus. Okay. So does that make sense? Does that make a lot of sense? Hopefully you learned a thing or two from that short little lesson. And just think what 5 hours of that would do. And that 5 hours could be yours in a couple weeks. Something like that. I'll, like I said, send me a message if you want the tutoring, and I'll set up a date and time, and I'll let you know when that is so you can sign up. Only $10 an hour to get that kind of stuff from this guy. $10 an hour. I don't know. Seems like a good deal to me. A lot better than, and because it's group tutoring, that's what gets you the $10 an hour. If I do, I mean, usually my one-on-one tutoring is like $30 an hour. I don't mess around. Okay, I'll do the muscle contractions really quick. All right. I told my wife I'd be in here for an hour, and it's an hour and 20 minutes. But you know what? She's in here 10 hours a day, so she can deal with it. She can deal with the kids on her own, since I have to for 10 hours a day. Okay. I'm looking for something to use as an example. Usually I have my weights, but my weights are on the other side of the house. And this is a long house. That's a weird description of my house, but if you were in my house, you'd understand. My house goes like really far back. So if I'm in the living room, somebody knocks on the door, it takes like 30 seconds for me to get to the door. It's ridiculous. Okay. You know what? My torso is so mad at me right now. I didn't even do that much. That's what not going to the gym for 4 months will do to you. Okay. So muscle contractions. We have 4 different types of muscle contractions. Yes, I'm not even going to say good luck because if you're taking the time to actually prepare, you won't need good luck. You'll pass the test, right? So there are 4 specific types of muscle contractions that you need to know, right? So the easiest way to think about a couple of them is just by looking at the name. And again, you've got to know your medical terminology. You know your medical terminology. You can figure these out just by looking at the name. Something changes and something stays the same. So in the name, it tells you what stays the same. So iso means same or equal. Metric means length. Tonic means tone or tension. Okay. So again, something stays the same, something changes. So what stays the same in an isometric contraction? Yeah. Gotta trim my beard a little. Ugh. What stays the same in an isometric contraction? Yeah, the length. The length of the muscle stays the same. What changes in an isometric contraction? What's going to change? It's not the length, right? Isometric, same length. The tension changes. Okay. So an example, I mean, there are specific exercises that you can do that are specifically isometric exercises. I hate doing those. I don't want to do them. I'm not going to show you an example of that. Like wall sits. Wall sits are awful, terrible, no good, very bad. It ain't going to happen. But I can show, yes, planks. That's another one. No, thank you. Not going to do it. I will show you, though. Okay. So I'm going to try to lift this desk, okay? So this desk, theoretically, what are we laughing at? What's so funny? Okay, so I'm trying to lift this desk, right? And so pay attention to like the biceps and the brachialis here. So theoretically, this desk, if it were too heavy for me, I would try to lift it. I'm trying to lift it now. You can see that there's tension in the muscle, right? But the length of the muscle is staying the same because this is too heavy for me to lift. Even though I'm incredibly strong and I could overturn this desk if I wanted to. In a cocaine heartbeat, this desk would be on its side. So there is tension, right? The tension changes, but the length of the muscle is staying the same, right? So that's an example of an isometric contraction. Length stays the same, isometric, but the tension changes. An isotonic contraction. Man, didn't think I'd be exhausted from standing up. That's what not going to the gym for 4 months will do to you. So an isotonic contraction. What stays the same in an isotonic contraction? I still don't know what everybody was laughing at me for. I'm not a comedian. How dare you? What stays the same? Yeah, the tension. Tension remains constant. And what changes in an isotonic contraction? Man, neck. Wish my neck could change. Ooh, the length, yes. The length changes in an isotonic contraction, okay? So the tension stays the same and the length changes. That doesn't mean there isn't tension, because there definitely is tension, but the amount of tension during the contraction remains constant, okay? So we have two types of isotonic contractions where the tension stays the same and the length changes. We have a concentric contraction and an eccentric contraction. So I pick up the Viper's skull. Game of Thrones, of course. If I were the mountain, I would crush it. Anyway, so I'm going to show you, without knocking over my wife's precious artwork here, which she does when she's on break. Yes, on this little table right next to me. I'm going to show you a concentric and eccentric contraction. Don't judge my pasty skin. Listen, I live on the West Coast, and I haven't been able to go outside in the past week because of all the fires we got out here. The entire valley is just covered in smoke. It's awful. And I have asthma, and that's my throat is all scratchy. It's not good. Not good. You know what? Oh, Rob Loveday is here. Hey, Rob, how's it going? Rob is a close personal friend of mine who finally decided to show up. He said he would join us here, but welcome to my closet, Rob. We did a gift exchange. I've got some stuff that Rob gave me over there. I think a Matt Hardy figure I see. Anyway, so concentric and eccentric contractions here. Let's learn a thing or two, Rob. I'm not talking about floating ribs today, Rob. I apologize. So concentric and eccentric deals with length, right? The tension remains constant, but the length changes. So I'm holding this skull, which weighs probably a couple pounds, nothing too heavy. So when I bring this in, pay attention to the biceps and the brachialis, okay? So the amount of tension in those muscles remains constant as I perform this action, but the muscles shorten. They get smaller, okay? So think about isotonic, right? Same tension, but the length changes, okay? So we'll watch that again. Got it. Still, same tension. Okay, so that's that's a concentric contraction. Did I say that? Concentric? Concentric contraction is a form of isotonic contraction. So length gets shorter with concentric contractions. Okay, so let's do an eccentric contraction. Again, pay attention to biceps and brachialis. Okay, so kind of explain to me what's going on with these muscles when I perform this action. Ready? Here we go. No, incredibly buff. Rob came at just the right time to see me showing off my 24-inch pythons. There we go. So what's happening with the tension? Remember, this is an isotonic contraction. The tension is remaining constant. Iso, same, tonic, tension. But what's happening to the length of the muscle when I do this? the length of the muscle is getting longer. So that's really the only difference between a concentric and an eccentric contraction. Is the length getting shorter or is it getting longer? And the reason we have concentric contractions, if I were doing this and I didn't have tension in that muscle, then everything would just kind of drop, and that would injure me and injure others. My cat's running around. If I drop this skull, that would not be a good thing. So, I mean, that's essentially it. That's the difference between concentric and eccentric contractions, just the length changing. So concentric contractions, the length of the muscle gets shorter. Eccentric, it gets longer. Okay. So I don't know. I'm sure you can figure out a way to remember the difference between those, match up little terms. I've never been able to figure out a way. I just know it. So I guess I don't have to come up with a way. Although, it's always good to figure something out just in case you're confused. Like some lovers try positions that they can't handle. Scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform, trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, hamate, by the way. So it's good to, do that stuff, and it really helps nail it down. So if you can figure out a way to remember, yeah, you can do eccentric, elongate. It's just that easy. Okay. Page 61 on this. Thank you. I'm glad somebody memorized which pages this information is on in my study guide, because I haven't, unfortunately. But it's there. It's there for sure. So again, I do have the MBLEx Test Prep Study Guide 2020 version is out now. 2021 may be coming soon. Just keep an eye on that. Just go to Amazon.com or MBLExTestPrep.com to find it. Search for my name. If you see my name on the book, I approve. If the book doesn't have my name, it ain't my book. Don't buy it. And of course, I do have that tutoring coming up. So if you're interested in that, this coming Sunday, I have 4 hours on pathology in the evening on Sunday, 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So whatever, just check it out. Go to MBLExTestPrep.com, click on the tutoring section at the top, and there's the registration page that'll give you all of the information that you need. You do need a Zoom account, which is free, and you do need PayPal to register for it. It's only $10 an hour. You can't beat that for sure. Hey, Jackie, I appreciate that. Everybody that has kind words for me, I appreciate it. Unfortunately, Rob and I know some people that are just mean. And they don't say very nice things sometimes. So thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. Everybody that likes my stuff, I appreciate it. So with that, I think I'm going to sign out of here. So I will try to do live stream. I don't know, maybe once a month, once every few weeks. I'll try. It's just one of those things. Like the only time I can do it is like this time after the wife gets off work. Then I have access to our lovely closet, and I'm sure there are even more people saying like, "Why is he in a closet?" I explained it at the beginning. If you're really that desperate to know, just go watch the beginning of the video. Yeah, check out my study guides, check out my tutoring. Please sign up for the tutoring. I want to teach. That's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about teaching you guys this stuff and getting you prepared for the MBLEx. I want to teach you. Let me teach you. Please sign up for my tutoring. All right. And I guess that's it. So unless anybody else has any final questions, comments, or concerns, I'm waiting. I'll give it another minute. Geez, I don't know. Let's see. I see one of the gifts that Rob got me hanging up over here. I'm not going to show it off. I don't know. People might be offended, but whatever. Thanks for that, Rob. I don't even know if Rob is still watching. But any last comments or questions or anything before I sign off? No? Nothing? Okay. Well, from the Viper and I, yeah, you're welcome, Jackie. I appreciate your kind words. I want nothing but the best for you guys. I know you'll do great. Just put in the time to study, do all that stuff. Okay. Join me next time. I don't know. Some of you are testing pretty soon, so maybe you won't be joining me. I hope you're not joining me because that should mean that you passed, right? You're going to pass. Okay. So until next time, this is David and the Viper, who has a dislocated jaw. The thing needs to. The cartilage here fell out on this side, so it's the jaw kind of dislocates every now and then. It's like a mushroom. He's a fun guy, right? Okay, I now have to leave. So long. Arrivederci.